You're listening to Cinema IRL, the podcast that throws you into the movie and asks the question, what would you do? Do you like to watch? Well, they do, and you better let them if you know what's good for you. Amber and Scott discuss being the subject of some mythical voyeurs in today's show after seeing The Watchers. And now, Cinema IRL.
I wish I could switch places for just one day.
You find yourself in the unique position. What would you do?
Put yourself in my shoes.
How do we handle this?
What would you do?
What would you do?
How do you want to handle this?
What would you do? Put yourself in my position.
What would you do?
Now it's your turn.
Well, now I know how Link felt.
I have no idea what that means.
I didn't think you would. If you are of a certain age and you played The Legend of Zelda for the NES, there was an area called the Lost Woods. And if you went up or down or left or right, it didn't matter. You were stuck in the Lost Woods and you could not get out.
Okay. All right, so today we are talking about The Watchers, and let me give you a description here so what Scott just said makes some sense. Mina, a 28-year-old artist, gets stranded in an expansive, untouched forest in Western Ireland. Upon finding shelter, she unknowingly becomes trapped alongside three strangers who are watched and stalked by mysterious creatures each night. This is a film by the daughter of M. Night Shyamalan, just to give you an idea of the vibes here for this
It's
film.
Shada Night Shyamalan.
Yes, that's a mouthful. Say it.
It's Shada Night Shyamalan. Shada Night Shyamalan. Speaking of things you need to be a certain age to get.
Alrighty, so much to unpack here. Let's kind of give folks an idea of the nuances here of this film before we dive into the what would you do portion.
The nuances?
Yes. So basically, Mina, the main character, she winds up driving into this area on an errand to deliver a bird. And she winds up going through this part of her forest where her phone and her radio and her car stop working. And she wanders around trying to find help. And within a minute or less gets disoriented and doesn't see her car anymore. So she wanders into the woods. She finds some people who are running towards this small shelter they call the coop. And apparently there are some sort of monsters outside, and they have to stand in front of a two-way mirror every night to let the monsters, creatures observe them. And this group of humans can only be out during the day because the creatures come out at night.
So this is unrelated, but it's the first thing that's on my mind, and it's the thing that's most likely to slip my mind.
Okay.
On the what would you do, the answer is buy all new plates. And the thing is, if I look into my sink and see roaches crawling all over the plates that are in my sink.
Okay, that is so obscure and such a tiny part of the film. I don't know.
Oh yeah, no, but I just wanted to make sure that if there's ever like 24 roaches running around in the sink on plates, we're just getting new plates.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So that is the end of the film in a very different part than where we just started. So.
Yes. But I'm crazy. I can go any direction. You never know with Scott.
Yeah, you're wacky.
Yeah. So, I mean, the truth is there's not much what would you do at the upfront. No, not even.
Well, see, okay, so she wandered deep into the woods to try and find help. If I were in her situation and the car stalled and the radio went out and the phone went out, I would backtrack, most likely, to where I went, I think. But as soon as she wandered off the very small dirt road and stepped into the forest had its way with her, and then she was completely sucked in. So I guess this kind of goes back to The Strangers Chapter 1, stay out of the woods.
It's true.
Nothing good happens out there. Murders, buried bodies, creatures.
I'm just very shocked that GPS would have her taking that route.
Yeah.
That was actually GPS routed, and it just went through a creepy-ass forest. Though it was interesting when we saw, right before she went in there, we saw the myriad of missing posters.
Yes, we did.
But she didn't see those. So, the what would you do is often what would we do other than what the main character did. And the truth is even with the thing early where she basically went out the night before because she was sad about her mom. Like
Yes,
that
her-
seemed like it was a little cuckoo, but it's fine. I mean, I get
Her
it.
mom had died 15 years later because she was being a little brat when she was a kid and
Yeah.
created a car accident where her mom died.
Yeah, people grieve how they grieve. So, and that's fine. I mean, work sends you on a trip. You go on a trip. Yeah, it's not really till she gets into the woods and it stops that you start figuring it out. And
Well, the creatures, when we ultimately see the creatures, they kind of reminded me a little bit of the creatures in Arcadian, the Nicolas Cage film that was out a couple months ago. And so, yeah, was the sound of the creatures there.
they were.
So I guess what I'm thinking is a what would you do moment. So if you found yourself in the woods and all of a sudden you find this woman who's running hysterically, and then locks you inside and says, you have to look at this mirror and you can't turn your back to it because there's creatures outside who like to watch us. OMG. I'd be like, what do I do here? I've obviously found myself in with a bunch of crazy people, which I think the character Mina feels. And then she kind of does some rebellious acts because she was a rebellious kid that ultimately ended up killing her mom. Not that she killed her mom, but resulted in her mom getting in a traffic accident. And quickly realizes that she needs to get in line and follow the rules because these creatures are scary.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously she is panicked when she finds Madeline initially. And there's like, come on.
Madeline is the woman running through the woods
Yes.
when she first gets there.
And like at that point, like there's definitely a time in life to ask questions and there is time to take action. And that was a time to take action. Like you are looking for literally any piece of civilization you can get. You just found one. Okay, I'm following you. I'm coming in.
Yeah. She ran after her and then quickly found herself in the coop, locked in, asked to look at that two-way mirror. So, I mean, if you were in that situation, what would you do? I mean, I'd be afraid I was with psychos and that if I tried to do anything or leave, they'd kill me.
Well, I mean, for one, I'm falling in line just like she did.
Yeah.
Like I am doing, because in the absence of having time to be able to fully think out a situation, like you have to assume that these people are allies. Like you just have to. I mean,
I wouldn't assume they were allies at all.
I mean,
They're crazy people living out in the woods.
the problem is
Now they weren't, but I would think that they were.
you've already seen enough things to think that there's some strange shit going down, especially with the whole, I walked 50 yards away from the truck, went to turn back in and oops, can't see it. Okay, that's weird.
It is weird, but it's easy to get disoriented when you're in the woods. You take it. I mean, that's fairly common. You take a couple of steps into the wilderness, you get a little further and you think you know where you are, and then you turn around and everything looks the same. It's all trees and leaves and everything looks identical. And you can get twisted around really fast. That's how people get lost in the woods.
But not necessarily after their radio went psycho and their phone went psycho.
They didn't
And
go
then
psycho, they just stopped.
the radio? No, the radio went psycho.
Well, and then it went out.
And it had
I
lots
mean-
of symbols and weird. I mean, obviously she probably didn't see that or realize it.
I mean, it was obviously some sort of electromagnetic area that she had wandered in that had disabled everything.
Yeah. So like
But you don't know there's anything supernatural about that. You drive and you just know your car went out and crap, I'm stuck in the middle of nowhere. I need help. So,
Yes.
So, yeah.
I would agree, but as soon as I hit the point where I've walked 50 yards sort of and don't see the truck on top of that, that's when I'm like, oh. And I mean,
But you wouldn't go to, oh my gosh, there's something freaky or unnatural happening here. You'd just be like, oh crap, where am I? Did I get turned around? Okay, I must have been that way. And you'd think you know where you're going and trying to figure it out. And as you try and figure it out, you get further and further into the woods.
the viewers are going to have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about here. And I'm not going to.
That'll be a first.
And I'm not.
That will be a first.
And I'm not going to explain it. But I'm just going to remind
That's
you
my job here.
that we have wind chimes and tall boys.
Okay, yes. There was
So-
something supernatural Scott experienced that he still hasn't recovered from. But that has nothing to do with our movie here. So what would you do in the fact that you've now discovered that these people have been in there anywhere from 5 months, 8 months, and undetermined amounts of time, and they realize they can't get out, that they have markers around saying this is the point of no return. You can only go this far to have time to be able to double back, to get back to the coop in time, to lock yourself out, to be at the mirror, to face the monsters on the other side of the two-sided mirror that you can't see.
Well, I mean, we've already seen where the watchers are making noise. Like they know there's something out there. It's not like
they're just standing there.
There's someone behind the curtain, or one of them is banging pots or something to make it see. I mean,
there's legitimately some sort of freaky threat happening outside the coop.
Yeah, I'm assuming that they're right until I get an actual chance to think about it, like to really start. And in that case, I think she figured that out. But I don't know. And I don't know how long she'd actually been there before she went down into one of the burrows.
It
didn't appear to be that long.
Yeah, it didn't appear to be that long. But so there was 4 people in the coop. There was...
Oh, yeah, I've got that right there.
Thank you. There was Madeline, the older lady. There was Daniel. There was Mina, our main character. And there was Kira. And Kira... her husband had been there with her until recently, where he went out trying to go further than the warning signs, and he had been gone for 6 days, and she foolishly thought he was still alive, but he had actually been mauled and killed by the creatures in the opening scene. But so spoilers.
Is that who it was in the opening scene?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we do know that was John?
Yeah, because remember the character came up to the camera later in the film, and that replicating. So the thing that is important here, again, spoilers. If you don't want to know what happens, please don't listen.
Don't listen. Hey,
or at least pause
back.
Pause this episode, go see the movie, and then come back and resume.
And honestly, that's just good advice for all of our shows.
Yeah, pause and then resume. So basically, these creatures replicate human features. And
they're changelings, shapeshifters.
Yeah, and there's some things that are occasionally off or weird. But one of the creatures had replicated the look of Kira's husband, John, and was basically saying, "Oh, I'm back, let me in," once they had locked themselves up into the coop. And Kira thought it was him, but it wasn't. It was one of the creatures who had assumed his appearance.
Yeah, but didn't assume his memory, because they asked the whole, ask him something personal
that only the two of you would know, and he didn't have the answer for
Which,
it.
by the way, boys and girls, that's a good thing to have with partners and family members anyway.
Yeah,
because with AI these days, you could get a phone call or something from somebody, and it sounds just like a parent or a sibling or something. So
I've been kidnapped. Send $1 million.
Ever you have a question, like something in your mind, have that whole like, what do I know that there's no chance of anyone other than this person knowing?
That is probably the sagest advice that you will ever get in cinema IRL.
At least for me.
No, that's certainly great advice. So yes, once you determine that you have wound up in a land where you cannot get out of, where there's basically shapeshifters, kind of creatures who will kill you, but turns out they're looking at you through this two-sided mirror so they can study you, so they can actually replicate you and your voice and your action and your appearances. So what would you do? OMG, I would get the heck out of there. But how do you do that? So
yeah, so that's kind of the interesting thing about this, is that you've already tried. Like, you've already looked, you're already trying to figure your way out, and you ain't succeeded.
Right.
Like, at all. And like, I get what she was trying to do with the burrow, but
okay, so let's explain that. There was holes in the ground where apparently the creatures went into the ground at night because they couldn't be exposed to daylight.
Yeah, and there are 3 rules. Number 1 was do not turn your back to the mirror. Number 2, do not go in the damn burrows. And number 3 is keep that door closed after sundown.
Yep.
So like, there are only 3 rules, and she's just breaking one of them.
Mina,
well, yes.
Only 33% of the rules, yeah.
Yeah, just 33%. Though I do feel like before it was all said and done, she got at least 2 of them, because she did briefly turn her back on the mirror.
Yeah, she did, and there didn't seem to be consequences to that. But there was other things going on.
They freaked out. It was like jolting and getting everything, and like, yeah, that was after she'd already kind of pissed them off.
Yeah, she had gone into one of the burrows where they supposedly hide. She found relics from years past and evidence, and she found a bike, thinking that they could ride the bike out. But apparently she got them really angry, and so they started beating up the coop, and then they had to throw the bike back into the burrow.
Also, I'm still taking issue with the fact that electronics only worked in the coop and not outside the coop, but yet they put the video camera outside the coop and was filming.
But it was,
and it still worked.
But it supposedly was under, so maybe it was still capturing some of the ability that the coupe had since it was tucked under somewhere.
Maybe.
Anyway,
I don't know.
So fast forward to the end of the film. They escape. Yay! They escape. Everything's all over. Dun, dun. But is it? So it turns out, again, spoilers, people. So many spoilers. They have brought back someone who is actually one of the fairies, the half-breeds, the monsters, not knowing that one of the four is one of these creatures. So
it's Madeline. If you're still listening and you were hoping we weren't going to spoil it, no, it's Madeline.
Yeah. So yeah, spoiler.
I mean, we're skipping in a lot of things. We're skipping the professor. We're skipping a lot of stuff there. But it's Madeline. It's Madeline.
This is not a safe place, people.
No, it's not. Never. And we are skipping over a bunch of stuff here.
Yeah,
like there's the whole professor
so
thing.
There's a lot happening.
Came to research it, and the professor and Madeline was
we're
actually
not reviewing stuff.
So what's the what would you do?
The what would you do is what would you do if you realize you accidentally brought one of these monsters back to civilization? Because they're capable of shape-shifting, they're capable of murdering people, and they're kind of angry because it turns out the reason they're there in these burrows is because human beings many, many eons ago put them in the ground, locked them in there to live underground, and for centuries they've been clawing at the ground trying to get out, and that's what these burrows are, is them clawing out from center Earth.
Yeah, what would you do? I'm trying to figure out what the hell the humans did the first time to get them back in the ground. Because they seem to have figured it out.
Yeah. So that lends itself to a whole other struggle.
There's not much you could do from a what would you do perspective.
You could either run away and let humankind fend for itself, or you could try to be the hero.
And do what?
And
who's going to believe you?
Well, I don't know if you're trying to tell people, but you could try and take out
the shapeshifter?
Madeline yourself.
Take out the person that can shapeshift into whatever form they want?
You need to do it when they're right in front of you, because obviously if you go to Disneyland, then they blend into a crowd.
Yeah, no.
Don't go to Disneyland.
Honestly,
with the
it's like, oops,
changeling.
Sorry I let a changeling out into the universe or the world here.
Womp womp.
But yeah, there's nothing you can do. There's just nothing.
Well, she tried. She was trying to do something. Now, we didn't know what her plan was, but it turns out...
Well, I think it was to save her own ass.
Well, no, they had invited Madeline over. She and Kira had invited Madeline over because they realized that Madeline was indeed one of the changelings, one of the halflings. And in that process, again... I shouldn't even warn for spoilers at this point because we've given so many that someone's going to drop off by now if they cared about spoilers. But basically, Kira was actually Madeline, and
because
Nina was talking to her all along. So yeah,
shapeshifters can take whatever form they want, and that's the thing, because you don't know what you're getting. And they made a point to mention that changelings were especially good at shapeshifting. So that's why the halflings are. The changelings weren't quite getting it right. There were still some issues, but the halflings, because they're half human, had actually nailed shapeshifting.
So let's explain that. Madeline was a halfling, so she was part human, part changeling. So that's why she was able to leave the forest. That's why she was able to walk amongst the daylight.
Daywalker,
because, she was a freak among freaks. So you have the freaks, but then she was a freak among the freaks.
Well, yeah, and she wasn't accepted amongst the changelings because she was half human.
Yeah.
So, or at least that's the understanding I have here.
So, per usual, I think I'm going to stick with the same what would you do as I do with Arcadian, as I do with the strangers. Don't go to the forest. Stay out of the woods.
Yeah, there just doesn't ever seem to be good things that happen in the woods.
You don't go. There's a big party and it was the best time of your life.
Like if I'm getting a plane.
Yeah.
The Irish countryside and GPS. Just make sure you check. You're like, we go right through the freaking woods here
on a very narrow dirt road.
We hope you enjoyed our episode. Thank you for listening. And to catch all the new episodes, please subscribe. We release 2 to 3 episodes weekly, so we'll have new content regularly. Until next time.